being devoted to everything in life? Am I willing to put away stuff right now for things that maybe are leisure, fishing, hunting, any of those types of things that I like to do to obtain what's right in front of me right now is an opportunity to continue to further my career in the National Football League. So, just a little bit after I talk about this, so I started here. I came to Huston as a freshman. Warren Crusoe brought me in for basketball, and I was playing, and I got hurt that first semester just playing pickup basketball. And after that, I put on about 40 pounds, so basketball wasn't really in the cards anymore. Plus, I'm not going to play in the NBA, and being 6'4", that's obviously out the door too. So, but I started here, then played football for Coach Price, which was fantastic, a great opportunity to start. I only came from a school of about 36 kids in Enfield, Maine. I didn't play football in high school. I only played soccer and basketball. So when I got here to Coach Price and Coach Nat Clark, I was really raw and knew nothing. But what it was I committed myself to something that I wanted to do. I never wanted to look back and say, man, I wish I would have played football that time I had the opportunity. I didn't want to have any of that regret, which Mike will talk about. I didn't want to look back and think, man, I should have done this when I had the opportunity to do it right. I had a chance. I tried to make the best of it. Talked to Coach Price, and with his blessing, transferred to the University of Maine and got it out there. And now this will be, Lord willing, if He blesses, my 7th year in the National Football League. So, you look back, and a lot of times, nobody really gave me a chance. I'll be honest, my parents might be upset with this, but they didn't want me to play football. They told me not to do it. They actually didn't want me playing college athletics. So, that kind of comes a long ways that way too. But when you have an opportunity and you have something that you want to obtain as an individual, you can't let your parents, you can't even sometimes let the closest people, which were at the time my parents and my friends, deter you from what you want to obtain as a human being. There's always going to be someone telling you, look, you can't do it. You have to make up your own mind. Whether it be from a school of 36 or a school of 1,600 kids, whether you ever played the sport before, whether you've taken that job before, maybe your college degree isn't in that. If it's something that you want to do, it's very possible. And it's one of those things that every day of my life I continue to try to do is look at myself and say, look, it's still possible. Right now, I'll tell you too, it hasn't been all glamour with the NFL. I've been cut 6 times. And if I continue to play, I'm sure it'll happen again. But it's one of those things that it's how bad do you want it? Is it something that you really want, or you kind of want, or maybe you just want to get done? For me, it's, look, I'm going to keep playing until the last call. And if they don't keep calling anymore, then I'll hang it up. But there's always going to be adversity. It's how you deal with it, and that'll definitely get you through. And I really felt like I was glad to be able to come back here, because I remember coming up, different guys that I was talking to, I can remember them saying like, oh, you're just from Huston, or you're only playing D3 basketball. Like they still say that now in the NFL. And then they get on the court, they realize a little bit different. It doesn't matter where you're at. It's how you're approaching it. I'm playing with guys who played Division I basketball, going to these charity tournaments, and beating the snot out of them. And I played Division III basketball. So honestly, it's not about where you are, it's how you're going to approach a situation. You're the only one who can define yourself. If you let anybody else define yourself, you're mistaken. Because you're the only one that has a chance to change your life and do exactly what you want to do with it. So that being said, Mike DeVito, over here, I met him when I first got to Maine. Coincidentally, we met in the weight room. I like to tell this because it kind of puts you in this perspective of who this guy is, and also what he is as well. He's, if not the strongest man I've ever met, I would say probably hands down top 3 strongest guys in the National Football League, and I've been on 6 different teams, so I feel like at this point I would know. Squats over 700 pounds, benches about 475, and a lot of these other things that we do in the weight room. He's always at the top. But also coming from a guy who's undrafted, you know, telling people, saying you can't do it. There's no possible way you can do it. But we met at Maine, we lived together for 2 years in Maine, and then we were blessed to live together again at the Jets for 2 years until his wife kicked me out. At the time I wasn't married either, and so then I was on the street. I was living in the cold. No, I had to go get my own place, and he couldn't stop. Yeah, just right down the way, actually, a couple houses down. So, but he's been my dearest friend. He's an incredible man, and he also, you know, has a great story and a great presentation, one that I think you'll enjoy.
Great, Matt, thank you so much. Guys, it really is a blessing and I'm going to be here and speak to you guys today. I got to apologize for the attire. I just came from the University of Maine, like the opposite of Matt. Matt took the advice, and people told him that he couldn't go to school and train for the NFL. Well, I didn't believe it, so I'm going to train for the NFL, and now I'm 30 years old, back in college, which is something. But this is what happens when your wife doesn't pick out what you wear, because I have pink checkers and purple socks.
Sweat.
Not exactly very good. So I'm in this monkey suit, so forgive me. But when I come back and do these talks, I always want to try to instill something that I wish I would have known when I was in your seats. This is a quote that said, "Experience costs you, but wisdom pays you." So I'm paying for the speech tonight. And when I think back, I really wish I would have been more future-minded about where I was at when I was in college. Just a little bit about my background. I was born in Brooklyn, New York, grew up in Cape Cod, Massachusetts. 2002, I had an opportunity to go to the University of Maine, played there for 4 years. 2007, left the University of Maine, signed a free agent contract with the New York Jets. Played 6 years with them. Don't hold that against me, all right? Matt played with the Patriots now, so I just look bad everywhere we go. But and then last year I just signed a 2-year deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. So going on 8 years now in the NFL. I look back and think, man, I still wish, even though, you know, I've had some success and done some things, I still wish I would have done more with the platform that you guys have. I kind of had the mindset when I went to college that I was going to follow the stereotypical, male football player. That was going to be my deal. And my plan was, I got really blessed with football, for football to be my career, but if I had not had football, I really didn't have any plans. And college was going to be sort of the climax of what I was doing. And my speech to you today is to use this platform to kind of propel you into the next phase of your life. I know as college is fun. I know it brings a lot of different things, social things, educational things. There are a lot of things to do. It's a lot of fun. But I want to instill this idea to always have the future in mind when you're going through what you guys are going through now. So that being said, there's kind of 3 points I had, 3 things that I think will help when it comes to thinking about the future. And the one thing, and even going back to school and here I'm studying business, the importance of this is to set goals. I think that as college students, college athletes, we can live in the moment, and I feel like it's really important to look to the future and say, okay, this is what I want to do in these areas. This is what I'm passionate about. This is how I'm going to attain it. In my life now, I've really kind of bought into this. I call them my 4 pillars, or my 4 non-negotiables. I'm a Christian first, a husband, a father, and then a football player. And each day, each week, each month, and each year, and long term, I'm setting goals to get better in those areas. I want to be a better Christian. I want to live a better life. I want to be a better husband. Gosh, and you talk to my wife. There's a lot of ways I could be a better husband. Better father now. We just had a baby on Thanksgiving, little Rocco DeVito. You never hear a kid named Rocco get beat up. So it's a tough name. But I'm learning how to be a parent. It's not easy. But every day I get up and I say, I want to be a better parent. And I try to tangibly look at it and say, okay, what can I do to get better in these areas? And then forget football, I'm always looking at how I can do better. And then when I'm playing for the Jets, there was a quote on the wall in the facility when you walked into the facility that said, don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want now. And I feel like in college that's really easy to do. I know I could go around this room and there'd be a million different goals, a million different things you want to get done, but there can be a lot of things in front of us that look fun right now, but will ruin us, take us off our path and our destiny for what we want to get done. 365 days a year for 16 games. I mean, we really do. We put everything in it. 24 hours, and we're always thinking about football to the point where it's almost, not right. Because if it becomes when it's your livelihood, and that's how you put food on the table, it can be consuming. But when you break it down, of those 16 games that you put 365 days in to do well in, the average game, the average player plays 20 to 30 plays. And then each play is about 4 or 5 seconds long on average. So in a given season, a player will play at the most 20 to 30 minutes of actual game time football. So that's 365 days out of the year devoted to 20 to 30 minutes. Now, for us, if we want to do well on that field, boy, we better be ordering our days and making the most of every opportunity that we have, because we don't have a large window to make mistakes. So it's so important to set goals and then to be disciplined about attaining those goals. And I think another thing that's important, and again, that goes off this quote about don't sacrifice what you want most for what you want now, is don't let this stuff get in your way. Like I was saying, there's a lot of distractions, there's a lot of things that can knock you off course. But when you're really bought into what you believe and those foundations, those things in your life that are so important, don't let anything get in your way of attaining those goals. I had an opportunity this offseason out in Kansas City to go to a place called Whiteman Air Force Base. And it's the only place in the world that houses the B-2 bomber. And now the B-2 bomber is that crazy-looking, spaceship-looking airplane, that big black airplane that the military uses. I don't know how many times people have seen it actually called in a UFO because they thought it was a UFO. But I mean, this thing is an impressive piece of machinery. I mean, the wingspan of this thing is bigger than this room. It can travel from Missouri to Iraq in like 12 hours, carries 150 different kinds of bombs. I mean, this thing is impressive. And I remember the general saying when we were taking a tour of the facility and the plane, he said, you know what, guys, if we send this out after an enemy, God help him because he's the only one that can. And I was thinking, that's a perfect analogy for how I want to attack life. With these goals in my life, that's how I want to attack it. I'm set, I got my goals, and I found out what's tangible, what I can achieve, and I'm gonna attack those girls. And God help me to those goals, and God help anything I attack those girls.
365.
Attack those goals. And anything that gets in my way isn't going to stop me.
24/7.
So setting goals, I feel like, is very important. The second thing, and Matt was touching on this too, is we need to do life. I said do life with teammates, but we need to have people in our lives, friends, relatives, whatever it be, that we keep a close network of people, like-minded people that are going to hold us accountable, encourage us, and to do life with. I'm going to put my buddy Matt on blast here. We were playing together in New York. We were there for 3, so Matt and I met in college. We spent 2 years in college together, became best friends, and then went to, I came out and went to the Jets, and 2 years later Matt comes there. So we spent 3 years there together. And we continue to grow together, and we, like I was saying, we really hold each other accountable, and our friendship is of utmost importance. So when we're playing with the Jets, we had this play. We were playing against Peyton Manning in Indianapolis. And anybody who knows anything about football knows Peyton likes to press the field. So he's constantly, dinking and dunking and trying to get you off, trying to get the defense off its rhythm. And what happens is when he does that, you can't sub in players. You can't sub in your guys that keeps the defense on the field. So we had a play called Lobster because I'm up here in Maine, so they called it Lobster. And what it was I would actually fake an injury. I would fake something in my knee or my hamstring to make it look good. And they would have to call an injury timeout. I'd go out for one play and come back in. And I always thought it was cool that they picked me to do it, but I guess it was probably because I was the worst player on the field. So they could substitute me out. I was thinking that the other night. So we're in practice, and we're going to go ahead and practice this play. We're practicing the lobster call. And I feel like everybody on the team knows it but him. So I get out there, and they're like, okay, Mike, we're going to go ahead and call lobster. So they call lobster, and I sell it good. I grab my knee, I go down, I'm like, oh, I start yelling, make it look real good. I didn't need to, but I just felt like it. And And everybody else is kind of laughing, but everybody looks over, and Matt gets down on one knee, and he's like, Lord, please take care of me. And everybody started laughing, but it's just a testament to, he's always had my back. He's always been there for me. And that's the kind of people we want to do life with. People that don't even ask questions, just went down and started praying. And that's the kind of people that we want to be going through life with. Another military analogy, I had this class I'm taking over at the University of Maine. They had a fighter pilot come in. This fighter pilot, he was one of the lead pilots that kind of secured the area during 9/11. So he had a real interesting story. And he was talking about the way that they kind of look, the way they kind of tell direction when they're flying their planes. And they use the clock system. So straight ahead is 12 o'clock, 9 o'clock to the left, 3 o'clock to the right, 6 o'clock behind them. And now the way they're set in their planes, they can see almost all the way around, but they can't see 6 o'clock. So they always fly in pairs. And they're always saying, okay, they're calling over to the guy and say, okay, check 6. And when they say check 6, it means what's going on behind me, because I can't see what's going on. So they're always watching each other while they're fighting. And I thought the guy said something so profound. He said, when we went to war, when we went out and do these things, I wasn't worried about dying. I wasn't worried to get blown up. That's the job we signed up for. But he said, I couldn't live with if I was flying and I wasn't checking my buddy 6 and somebody came from behind and took him down. And it was on me. It was my fault. Who's checking your 6 in this life, in this game of life that we go through? Who's checking your 6? Who do you have in your circle of people that's got your back? And I feel like it's important not only to have people that have your back, but to have people that set an example. So when I surround myself with people in my life like Matt, pastors, different people, I put them in my life because there are different reasons, but one of the reasons is because I want to see if they're really good at something. Like I have a brother, pastor in New York. He is an unbelievable husband. I mean, he does an incredible job. And I look at him and I try to emulate what he does. So I surround myself with people that really I can look at and say, okay, I need to be like him. So it's so important when we do surround ourselves with people, surround ourselves with people that are better than us, that we can strive to be like. And not only that, but that we can reach out to and just have them speak life into us. So set goals, do life with brothers, do life with sisters, do life with teammates. Have people to hold you accountable, to encourage you. And then this last thing, and this I'm going to be preaching a little bit, so forgive me, but this is something that was so important to me that I didn't find until the last year of my senior year in college. It could have kept me from so much junk. But we need to have, I really believe a foundation in faith is so important when you're going through life. There's a crazy statistic that 75% of NFL players are broken, divorced within 3 years of retirement from the NFL. And the NFL is doing everything they can to bring this statistic down. Where we have seminars, all these kind of player development things, everything they can do to try to bring us down, but they're not really getting to the heart of the problem. I really feel the heart of the problem is guys let football define who they are. So when they retire from football, what defines them is dead. It's over. And now who are you? And I really feel like that's why that statistic is so high. So one thing for Matt and I that's so important is our foundation is in Christ. It's the number one most important thing to us is our walk with God. So having something transcendent, having something to be your foundation in life that's greater than the things that we think this world has to offer. We see with finance, money. Money is always a big thing. Everybody's striving to have money. Money's great. Money is a blessing. But you see the Bernie Madoff thing. And how many lives were ruined because of that? And how many people took their lives because they lost all their money? So what happens is we put our foundations in these things that are so fleeting, and when those things leave, it becomes very devastating. Now, that doesn't mean that when you have faith in something else, something transcending this world, that doesn't mean that we're not going to go through problems and have issues. But I think it's a matter of going from being devastating to being difficult. So that's my spiel for today, guys. Thank you guys so much. I know we're going to open up to questions, but again, really take advantage of the platform you guys have here. Don't let this be the best. We always say college best 4 years of your life. Don't let it be that. Let this be an asset and a platform to propel you into the next phase of your life. Use all the things you have here to get better, to grow, and to attack this life, because you only get one and it's quick. That's all I got. So, are there any questions?
What's one thing that caught you guys off guard when you guys? What's one thing that caught both you guys off guard when you first entered into the league? Is there anything? And also, I want to ask, second part of the question is, what's your favorite part? What's your most favorite part and least favorite part?
Yeah, the one thing that caught me off guard when I first got in the NFL was that nobody cares. Those guys did not care. When we were in college, we were all, all your teammates, it was really, you had brothers, the coaches cared, and everybody was really involved. And then when I got to the NFL, man, it was like, look, you either make this team or you don't. We don't care, nobody's losing sleep if you get cut. Nobody's helping you out either, so figure it out. So it really forced me to grow up quick, because I didn't think it was going to be like that. And I had a lot of great teammates, I'm not bringing them down, but again, they just, man, it just was harsh. And then what was the second question?
What would you consider your most favorite part of being in the league and the least favorite part?
My most favorite part of being in the league is the opportunity to do things like this. It really opens up a lot of doors for us to come and talk and try to impart wisdom and speak life to you guys, to different people. Because I don't want to look back when football's over and say, man, I just used it for football. I want to make sure I've used it to help people. If one person gets one thing out of this entire forum tonight, it doesn't matter that I'm up here looking like an idiot and sounding like an idiot, because one person got something out of it. So it's important for me, and the thing I find most important, the thing I'm most grateful for, is the platform. And then, the one downside to it is, again, it can become very consuming. And I really have to be intentional to make sure I'm focusing on my wife, focusing on my son, my faith, things like that, because football can really take over and then, become the baseline for my emotions. If I have a good game, I'm feeling great. If I have a bad game, I don't want to talk to anybody. So those are probably those things.
As far as most probably thing that caught me off guard would be also, it's an interesting thing, it's kind of conundrum, but it also could be the thing I like about it the most, and the most thing that I don't like about it the most is the type of perfection that it takes. Everything is very meticulous. Like you look at the game of football and you think, oh, well, it's just a bunch of guys, a bunch of Neanderthals running out there and bashing each other's around, and you just kind of run around in tights, and you're out there for 60 minutes and it's over with. And there's maybe some blood every once in a while, but it's really not how it is. The intricacies of football are so vast, and it's really incredible. Like I like to tell a story, like generally the playbook and every respective team that I've been on, it's been about 2,000 different variations of plays. And at any given time, any given moment, you are required to know all of them. So you have a game plan every week, which is kind of condensed down into something that you should be able to remember and perfect is what they're expecting. See, the thing is, when I talk about this perfection thing, you kind of go into maybe a classroom and you're like, man, I got a 98 on this test. That's awesome. In football, that's terrible. And that's the honest thing. You can have 50 plays and you have 2 awful plays, and that will haunt you that entire week because you don't get another chance until 6-7 days later, depending on when you're playing, maybe even 4. And it's one of the things that drives me because you can always be better, but at the same time, as Mike talks about this consuming it, but it can really take over your life because you become such a perfectionist that it can really hinder maybe some other areas of your life when it's not really realistic to be perfect at everything, but that's what they require of you. Something that Mike and I really, and it kind of goes back to this, and we've been kind of engulfs how we attack just life in general, is sometimes it's good enough, but it can always be better. And that's what the NFL really tells you. And they come in and you could have pancaked 6 guys and knocked their helmet off and made them quit and made them cry and said a whole bunch of nice things to them. But if you miss one you're supposed to block and he destroys Tom Brady, that's not a good thing. So it's really like one of those things that at the same time drives you, but at the same time it can really eat away at you. It's really probably what kind of caught me off guard, and to this day it's still very difficult to overcome, but at the same time I find pleasure in it.
How bad was Mark Sanchez scrutinized in the locker room after the infamous butt fumble?
It's funny because we were laughing before, like, you think we're getting Sanchez, Tebow questions? You know, you try to stay away from that, you try to build your teammates up, and I've never seen something stick around so long. I mean, man, that was on ESPN's Worst of the Worst for like 3 years. But yeah, when you try to build each other up, you let something little like that into a locker room setting and it can tear you apart. So it's important to kind of nip that stuff in the bud.
That's one of those questions that honestly, and that's what the NFL has really taught me. So, for instance, let's say you go out and somebody, you mess up on something, and it's all over national television. You can't get away from it. Your family, your friends, your teammates, Joe Schmo walking down the street. It's one of those things that when you have a nucleus of 53 guys, if you can't depend on them, you might as well just hang it up. And that when he's talking about that, it's talking about defending him in every possible way. Look, the media's here tonight, and that's fine. It's all on fine. And we appreciate them because they give us an opportunity to do a lot of different things. But for the most part, they stink. And that's the honest truth. Because you can, no, this guy's, and as an individual, it's great. But as a corporation, it may be something different. What I'm saying is, when you start playing, you develop a relationship with people. That type of stuff is funny on the outside, but very destructive on the inside. And it can really destroy not only a man's mindset, but his career. It's an initial, maybe everybody kind of gets a chuckle out of it, but by the time it's played the 1,000th time, and you can't type your name in anywhere without seeing that come up, it can be difficult. So that's actually one of the other things that you have to endure as a professional athlete, is the bad with the good, because a lot of times, like I was saying earlier, the bad far outweighs the good, unfortunately, because Mark is an outstanding athlete and a great quarterback, but at the same time, because of the type of media, the market that he's in, we'll never get that type of dude.
We have TVs in the lunch room, in the meal room, and it's just every day that was on. It's like these guys are sitting there eating lunch with him, and they're like, oh, it's so bad, they're so good stuff.
So, sitting here, I think it's pretty surreal listening to two guys I watch, every Sunday I like to watch, especially Sunday nights for the Patriots. No offense to you, but you guys aren't that much older than us, so I'm sure you've watched Tom Brady play football when you were in college and even in high school, and people like Peyton Manning. Is it surreal to walk into a locker room and see your face like that, coming from such a small community, and like watching players you were growing up, it's like crazy, like Jamal Charles, like what?
And there were a couple times, I'll tell you about I think the one time that really kind of encapsulated that was when we traded for Brett Favre. And I remember, because you try to play cool, and the older guys try to play cool, but we were playing a preseason game in Cleveland, and it was right before the game that he had got there. And he walked in the locker room, everybody was like, wow. And Brett, you could noticeably see that everybody was really impressed. And then Jets training camp, we maybe had 5,000-10,000 people come out to watch training camp. The next day, after we got there was like 50,000 people to watch practice. So, yeah, so sometimes, there was another time my rookie year we were playing against the Steelers, and I'm, getting down in the stands, I'm listening to Ben Roethlisberger give a cadence, and I'm watching Heinz Ward come motion in. It's just like, wow, You know, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah, no question. There are times, and you know, sometimes you gotta sit back and think, man, what a blessing this is. I get an opportunity to do this. You're in it all day, every day. It starts to, it starts to just become, monotonous, and it's the same thing. But sometimes I step back and say, wow, this is really a blessing.
It's obviously in a very unique situation to walk into any locker room and see guys that are on each individual team that are the face of the franchise. And obviously up here, everybody loves Tom Brady or loves Rob Gronkowski or whoever it may be. But at the end of the day, like it's you see guys who played against them. To be honest, like knowing Tom now is great. He's a great guy. He's a fantastic leader. He's somebody that you want to play with, no question. He provides everything that you want on a guy who would be the front man of your team. But prior to getting the Patriots, I had the absolute most distaste in my mouth for him of a lot of guys in the league because of how he is in the football field. So there's a lot of guys that I've seen that you see playing, and you get to them, you just so it's not really like one of those things. Then you realize, oh wait, I'm on his team now at this point. Well, for me, because I've traveled around, so you've played against guys the year before, and you're smashing each other, and he's talking a lot of trash, he's saying a lot of things about your mom, and whatever else it may be. So when you see him, it's not like, I can remember this year being at Pats, because I played him 4 years in a row. And every year, I'm always getting in something with somebody. It's just always that way. So when I first got there, the amount of dirty looks that I received was pretty epic, to be quite honest. And I can remember one player, for instance, because him and I always had a few things to say to each other, that it actually took him a few weeks before he would even really speak to me. Because that's how it is. So in some instances, it's cool, like if you never really played against him. In other instances, it's like, I really don't like that guy. He gets cut next week. That's what most people are going to think about me. But it's really cool. It is an awesome thing because you get to play with top caliber athletes every day of your life, and a lot of people get to do it. But at the same time, you're so engrossed in what you're doing for a livelihood that it's difficult to really sometimes let it sink in, to relish in the fact that, hey, look, I'm playing a sport for a job because of the uncertainty, because of the fact that, like I was saying earlier, it all comes back. If you're not perfect this week, you can be shown the door, which has happened to me a few times too. So it's tough to develop relationships. It's tough to develop that type of camaraderie a lot of times, and to really see what you're in at the present time because of all the things that the National Football League brings with it. But at the same time, like, we had a Halloween party this year. To see guys that you've watched, like you're saying, for a long time, dress up in crazy outfits and just be stupid. That's when it can be surreal. That's when you can kind of let your hair hang down, so to speak. I don't have any of that. But, and really kind of get to know guys. That's when, for me, it becomes fun. And people always say, well, did you enjoy this last season? Like, I enjoy the fact that I got through it and walking on my own 2 feet now that it's over. Now I can think about it. That's one of the things that's when you can really kind of sit back. And, like a question like this kind of brings it back for us and really helps us realize what we're so fortunate to do.
Who's the funniest player in the NFL?
What, the funniest player?
Yeah.
Well, Dustin Keller's pretty funny.
Mark Scott's pretty funny.
Yeah,
You
those two
you can see that.
those are pretty comedians. They always get something. But honestly, you may not know who this is. So, I've never played with him, so I can't really say. I've seen some of his accolades in the comedic realm. But Ben Hartsock, he is like, you wouldn't know him at all sitting his laughing at me, but he's a tight end, blocking tight end, played for Carolina the last 3 years. It was his 10th year. But the things that you would hear out of his mouth or see him do was incredible. So, for instance, for the Jets, Rex, like if we were on long weight trips, he'd let us wear, sweatpants or whatever we wanted because it was a 4-hour trip. Like, it's really long coming from New York to the West Coast. Well, Hartsock would legitimately every away trip. This is a man that's been in the league for it was 8 years at that point. Wear a windbreaker, a blue zip-up windbreaker, both of them matched with dress shoes. Every away trip. Like, that's how he dressed up with that. So those type of things, he didn't care. And the things that come out of his mouth, he just had no respect for himself. He and they would be extremely wrinkled. So to be on top of that, Dustin and I, we played a trick on him one time because we could have sworn that he wore the same khaki shorts every day. These cargo shorts. And there's no way he has multiple pairs of those. So we put an X in his pocket, and we're saying, I was like, all right. So if we see this come back tomorrow, once everybody's going to practice, Dustin and I went back in and checked. But the X was gone. So we actually had, because he wore the same get up every day, same type of thing. It just, those types of things.
This is what happens, you get 30-year-old adults that still act like kids. The humor's pretty funny. You get people in every locker room.
For Matt, what's it like scoring a touchdown in the NFL? And for Mike, what's it like making a sack in the NFL?
I'll make that many.
Good sacks, good. Stacks. True.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, one time we were playing the Chargers in the divisional round, and I sacked Philip Rivers to basically seal the game. And I was like, I felt pretty good about that. We lost the next week, I was still pumped about it.
That's a great story. That's a great play.
I probably sound like a Debbie Downer, but and this is honestly what goes through my mind. So Mike and I's careers in what we do on the football field parallel each other in so many facets. It's really incredible. But for me, obviously, I don't catch a lot of passes. Very few. 2, 3. Kind of play last time. I forgot. Anyways, but it's so nerve-wracking to have to catch a touchdown because when you don't catch a lot of passes, if you ever drop one, just forget it. Because they will never, ever throw it to you ever again. So my percentage of catches compared to the plays that I have is very minuscule now. Go ahead and drop one and watch your play time decrease right in front of your eyes as the ball touches the ground. So every time that I realize that there's a possibility of me catching a touchdown, I'm running up to the line. I am just absolutely sweating my face off. I'm sitting there all the time. Oh God, just let me catch it. Just let me. I don't. To be honest, for me to remember the play is a miracle in itself. After all of that. So it's interesting. It's great because coming from Maine, I caught passes at Maine, I caught passes here at Hudson. But then when you kind of get into a mold and you were expected to do one thing, and then they put you outside of the box, it's very uncomfortable, especially when it's on a stage when everybody and your brother's at home watching. So if you drop this, they're all going to say a whole bunch of nonsense that they already say anyways. So there's so much riding on it. So that being said, it was pretty incredible in all ways, to be honest. And that's why when I got done, Mike, he saw this picture that I had, the kind of thing that they have in the poster. He asked me, "What were you saying there?" I was like, "I was saying nothing, just screaming." Because that's all I could do at that point. The type of emotion, just being able to, just the fact, because we watched the play over and over and over again, and you get two guys colliding in midair. I honestly didn't see it. It was coming in there, it's a bullet. And the thing is, it registers as a 1-yard touchdown, but it was really 25 yards. So, because he's throwing from the, it was just a whole. But anyway, so we got through it, and I was like, yes, thank you. So we keep it going, but it's a pretty incredible experience.
So you guys talked about, after football, a lot of people, they go broke or something like that. It's really hard to cope with, but what have you guys thought about doing after football? What do you think you want to do in life?
Yeah, good question. What do we want to do it? So I'm finishing up school right now, so I can go to Bible college and try to get my master's in divinity. I want to try to do something in the ministry, whether it be preaching or teaching pastor or something like that. So something that I really feel called to do. And it's actually great because the NFL, if you're on a roster the year before, will pay for school the next year. So I'm going to have an opportunity to finish up Maine this year and then have at least 1 year of the NFL paying for my master's degree.
I honestly, it's difficult for me to say. There's a lot of different avenues that I would like to pursue. I don't really know where the Lord's going to lead me at this point. I'm going through free agency right now, so this potentially could be the last time. I may not get picked up this year. we've had a few different teams calling, but it's been unlike any other year. Something that takes a lot of patience from year to year. It's my 3rd year in a row, being a free agent, so that's something else to overcome. But as far as life after football, maybe not have a specific plan at this point of what type of career I want to be involved with, but what my wife and I have done and what my parents have really instilled in me is to not be that statistic that Mike talked about earlier, being in that 75%. So, right now, I guess the preparation that we're doing is we're trying to live within our means. We live in Lincoln. We don't have a lavish home. We're not driving Bentleys, or those Bugattis or whatever else is going on. I have no idea what that means. It's a car, so forgive me if it isn't. But we're not doing that, and that's one of the types of things we're doing to prepare ourselves for the next step is to not have to rush into it. Being able to take what the NFL has given to us, and it's been a blessing, and then really kind of not have to rush into anything. Which is why college is a great opportunity. Have 4 or 5 years that you're here, to really figure out what your next step is and not let it pass you by. So, and that's the opportunity we've been given. So, I honestly, maybe something to do with strength and conditioning. I like that. Also, maybe a game warden if I was to try to pinpoint a career. But we'll have to see what happens.
Any others?
This one's for DeVito. You talk a lot about faith. Did you look up to guys like Reggie White growing up?
I really didn't. I didn't come to my faith until I was a senior in college. So prior to that, I really had no foundation in it. We were your typical Catholics on Christmas.
I'm a Packers fan, that's why I
I've always been a Reggie White fan, but faith was. But now I love it.
After seeing Gronkowski go down, what ran through your head?
There's a lot of different things that run through your head. Rob and I, our lockers were right next to each other in the locker room. We spent a lot of quality time together, not just on the football field, but off, and we lifted together. The tight end group was and each team I've been on, the tight end groups have been really good. Very fortunate to play with a group of men like that. But so, anytime you see anybody go down, it's very difficult to stomach because you almost see your own career flash in front of you because it could easily just have been anyone else versus him. So it's devastation, obviously for him, and because of how hard he worked to get back anyways, coming off an injury, and then to have another blow to his career was obviously terrible, catastrophic, but at the same time it also revs up me a little bit more because now I realize that I've got to do a whole heck of a lot more, and what they're going to ask me to do. I've said before, I can't replace Rob, I can only be Matt Mulligan, but at the same time I can step up my game and try to do it that much better with him being missing.
What is the Patriots locker room like?
It's very, it's actually a really good time. You've got a good nucleus of guys, of older guys that have been there, done that. We had a lot of rookies this year, and you've got a lot of guys in between. But it was it was all about winning, very winning oriented. Like at any given time, like everybody's talking about a lot of times, what we could have done better, what we're going to do at practice, what we're going to do this coming week. But at the same time, when you go in the locker room, it's kind of like a safe haven for players. You're trying to get away from the coaches. So there's some guys in the locker room that police that, and the coach has to walk in and kick them out. So those types of things. But it was a very, it wasn't hostile, very, in a lot of ways, just we were relaxed. So that's what it should be. Your locker room should be that way because it's so intense on everywhere else.
Question
Have you ever played somewhere where it's so loud you can't hear the cadence, but your teammates next to you talking?
We actually broke the record record this year in Kansas City for the loudest. They brought in the Guinness Book of Records, and it was the loudest stadium ever, at like 170 decibels or something crazy. I mean, it felt like an earthquake. The place was shaking. And usually you're so used to it, you tune it out. But when they broke the record, it was like, wow. I mean, it was impressive. You couldn't hear any, and the place was literally, you could see it shake.
Anytime you play in a dome, you're very liable to never hear the cadence. So during the week, we always prepare by playing music, extremely loud and annoying music. So you don't hear the cadence all week long, and that's one of the most difficult things a tight end has to go through is being on the edge, because it's a natural progression. You got your center, and then the guard kind of goes off a little bit, and the tackle a little bit more, and by the time you get to the tight end, you can't see the ball. So you're going off everybody else's movement, which is terrible, because a lot of times you're late, and old boy up here that's either a defensive end or stand up outside linebacker, he's trying to cave your head in, and you're getting a late start. So that's one of the most difficult things. I can be honest, at this point in my career, unless you're at home, when you're on the road, you just forget about it. Any stadium is loud, and you're just never really going to hear it. And then, especially if you get checks and stuff, you could definitely do a whole lot of false starts, which I've been a part of a few times. So.
Okay. I'm not seeing. Okay. Well, I think I want to extend a huge thank you to both of you for coming here and talking to all of us tonight.
Thank you guys. Thank you.